That shirt looks perfect on the rack, the fabric catches the light just right, the tag reads something about premium cotton, modern fit, or performance weave, the store smells expensive, the price confirms it, you've seen this brand your whole life, things on billboards, on athletes, on actors playing wealthy people in movies you watched as a teenager, you buy it.
You wear it a few times, you wash it 10 times, and then the questions start. Why is the collar going soft? Why does the chest feel tighter, but the waist bags out? Why does the fabric look different now? Slightly thinner,
slightly shinier, slightly less like a shirt, and slightly more like something that should have cost $30 in the first place?
Because you didn't pay for cotton, you paid for a logo. You paid for the store. You paid for the campaign, the celebrity deal. The real estate on every major shopping block in America. The shirt was almost an afterthought in that transaction. Today we're going through 6 shirt brands that consistently charge more than they deliver, and then 4 brands that most men walk past without realizing they're standing next to something that actually feels premium. Not premium branded, premium in the shirt itself.
Before we start, here's the single question we'll apply to every brand in this video. When you strip the logo completely out of the equation, what is left in the shirt? Fabric weight, weave quality, collar construction, button density, fit consistency, seam finishing, thread count, that is the shirt. Everything else is the story the brand tells about the shirt. And stories, as it turns out, are very expensive to produce. Let's Go, this iconic preppy brand, is a masterclass in selling Americana.
Without necessarily making shirts that live up to the story, the brand has been one of the most recognized names, but
in men's clothing for 40 years. The logo is iconic. The marketing is relentlessly polished. The stores are designed to feel like an aspirational version of old money New England. Summer houses, sailboats, preppy ease. But the shirts in the main line,
specifically the dress shirts and everyday button-downs, at $60 to $90, rarely match the ambition of the packaging. Here's what you're actually buying. Fabric that typically runs light for the price point. Cotton compositions that lean into polyester blending. More than the branding ever hints at, collar stays that bend under real wear, buttons that look decent in the dressing room,
and start chipping or cracking within a year of regular use. The fit labeling, slim, classic, athletic, often means different things. From one season to the next, you find a size that works in spring, go back in fall for the same item, in the same size, and the garment fits differently. That inconsistency is not accidental, it's what happens when the design process
prioritizes merchandising cycles over building one great shirt that repeats reliably. You are paying roughly $60 to $90 for a shirt. That delivers perhaps $30 to $35 of actual garment. The rest is logo, retail footprint, and 4 decades of brand equity. That has nothing to do with the thread count. There are shirts at the same price with more substantial fabric, but more consistent sizing, and collars that actually hold their shape after 30 washes. Tommy Hilfiger sells you the idea of quality.
Dressed up as a shirt, the shirt itself does not always justify the idea. Calvin Klein does something more subtle, and in some ways more frustrating. At the mid-range price point, Calvin Klein positions itself as a designer label. At an accessible entry, you get minimalist branding, clean aesthetic, the suggestion of European sensibility. The shirts look refined on the hanger.
The presentation is impeccable. The problem is that the execution rarely lives up to the positioning. Calvin Klein dress shirts, particularly the mainline and the Calvin Klein jeans categories, frequently use fabric compositions that sit much closer to serviceable than.
The cotton feels thin. The construction, specifically how the collar, cuffs, and seams are joined, shows visible shortcuts at this price level. And the fit, often marketed as slim or extra slim, tends to exaggerate proportion in ways that look dated quickly.
Shoulders sit slightly off. Sleeves run long. The hem is tuned for nobody in particular. What you're buying, almost entirely, is an association. Calvin Klein on a shirt label says something in a room. The shirt itself doesn't always hold up, but that conversation once you're standing close enough. For someone to notice the buttons are rattling loosely, or the placket is starting to bow.
The real trap is the price to prestige arithmetic. Calvin Klein charges enough that men assume quality is included. It often isn't.
It's brand recognition priced as a garment at a level where brand recognition should have been replaced by better fabric long ago.
If you want a clean, minimal dress shirt with real construction at a similar price, there are options we'll get to.
That don't ask you to subsidize a brand that built its cultural identity on underwear and fragrance before it ever got serious. About shirting, Banana Republic is where this gets more complicated, because this brand actually used to make better shirts. In earlier years and in some product lines today, Banana Republic offered legitimately solid construction at a reasonable price. But the mainline Banana Republic dress shirt right now, particularly the non-iron and wrinkle-resistant categories at $80 to $120,
tells a different story. The non-iron shirt is one of the most aggressively oversold concepts in men's retail.
The pitch is convenience, wrinkle-resistant, easy care, lower maintenance. That's a fair value proposition in the right context.
But there's a cost nobody mentions on the hang tag. Non-iron shirts are treated with resin finishes, formaldehyde-based or equivalent chemistry,
that change how the fabric interacts with your skin. The cotton becomes stiffer, less breathable, and over time the hand feel degrades faster than an untreated shirt ever would. The collar doesn't roll naturally the way a good shirt collar should.
It sits flat and slightly plastic feeling, rather than developing the gentle downward curve that signals quality shirting constructed correctly from the start.
You are paying $80 to $120 for a shirt that has been chemically processed to make your mornings easier.
At the direct cost of the shirt's actual character and feel, a shirt at this price should breathe well. It should feel like cotton against your skin. Because it is cotton, it should develop a softness over time that makes you reach for it repeatedly. The Banana Republic non-iron shirt does none of these things. It is a laundry shortcut dressed in aspirational
retail packaging, and after 2 years of regular wearing and washing, the chemical finish breaks down anyway. And what you're left with is a shirt that was never particularly good underneath. Express built an entire retail identity on the promise that every man can look sharp without spending too much. That's a reasonable pitch. The problem lives entirely
in how it's executed. Express shirts are optimized for one body type and one visual aesthetic: young, gym-built, trend-forward. The slim fit exists for the mannequin. The extra slim fit exists for someone who has never eaten a business lunch. But this is not only a vanity issue. This is a pattern-making and construction problem dressed up as a fashion conversation. When a brand doesn't invest seriously in pattern grading, the discipline of scaling a garment design proportionally across multiple sizes,
the result is a shirt that fits nobody particularly well anywhere in the range. The chest might work on you,
but the sleeves are off, the length is workable, but the collar gap at the button is wrong. The waist suppression is aggressive enough to read not as tailored but as strained. Express frequently uses cotton elastane blends marketed as stretch comfort.
In practice, these function as a workaround for improper pattern making. If the shirt were cut correctly in the first place, it wouldn't need 4% elastane straining to keep it across your torso. At $60 to $90 for a dress shirt,
or going out button down, you're paying for the store experience and the visual identity of the brand more than you're paying for a shirt that was designed to fit a real body over multiple years. After a year of regular use,
most Express shirts reveal their economics clearly. Threads pulling at the placket, elastic fiber losing its recovery, collars collapsing, colors fading in patches. A shirt should outlast a trend cycle. Express shirts frequently don't survive a full year of honest use. This one is going to make some people uncomfortable, because Ralph Lauren operates almost like a cultural institution in American men's clothing.
The polo, the flag, the rider, the story of America as it liked to imagine itself. Rich, sporting, at ease. And Ralph Lauren's higher-end lines, Purple Label, Double RL, genuinely do deliver exceptional product. That's not in question. But the mainline Polo Ralph Lauren entry shirts, the casual button-downs, the lightweight chambray, the linen shirts at $60 to $90,
you find in every department store and every outlet mall across the country, they're fine, sometimes better than fine. But they operate in a value zone that consistently doesn't match the price or the brand's implied promise. The casual shirt line uses fabric weights that often disappoint for the price. The linen shirts collapse and crumple within an hour. Of wearing them, the chambray thins out more quickly than it should. The lightweight flannel has presence in the store,
and loses it after a season of use. These shirts also go on sale at 40 to 50% off constantly. That persistent, aggressive discounting tells you something about what the brand believes the real market price is. If the shirt were genuinely worth $85, you wouldn't need to sell it for $40 to move it.
Here's the real problem with polo at the entry level. It carries the weight of a century of aspiration. When you wear that shirt, you're partly buying the mythology of Gatsby, of tennis courts, of summer by the water.
And that mythology costs something. It just doesn't go into better cotton. It doesn't go into a more structured collar or more substantial buttons. It goes into the logo on the chest and the story behind it.
If the story is what you need, the shirt will serve you. If you want the shirt to work as a garment, to feel substantial in your hands, to hold its shape across seasons, to look better used than it did new. The mainline polo at full price is frequently a worse deal than less famous alternatives that cost $30 less.
Hugo Boss has positioned itself with exceptional precision in the space between accessible and aspirational, European design language. Sharp, authoritative marketing, a name that sounds unavoidably like it belongs to someone important, but the entry-level Hugo Boss shirt, the Hugo line, as distinct from Boss, is where the brand's economics become visible in ways the marketing prefers you.
Not to examine, at $80 to $120 for a dress shirt, you're buying association with legitimate fashion credibility. What you're not consistently buying is construction. That a $60 shirt from a less famous brand couldn't match or exceed.
The shirting fabric in Hugo's entry line frequently uses synthetic blending or cotton compositions that do not justify the price point. The seam work is clean enough. Hugo Boss is not making poorly constructed products, but it's not doing anything structurally.
More interesting than what you'd find in the mid-range of less celebrated brands, what Hugo Boss is specifically charging you for is European positioning and the implication of executive taste. In a certain kind of client meeting, the Hugo Boss label on your shirt is doing social work for you. That's real, but if you're evaluating the shirt as a physical object,
weight in your hands, feel on your skin, collar structure, cuff quality, how it survives 12 months of office rotation, you'll often find you paid a meaningful premium entirely for the positioning. The most revealing signal is the discount cadence.
Hugo Boss runs sales constantly, across categories, across channels, a brand that charges premium prices and then discounts aggressively on a regular schedule is making one specific calculation, that a segment of men will pay full price.
Because the name alone justifies it, don't let a name do the work a shirt should do on its own. That's 6 brands, 6 distinct ways to spend more on a shirt than the shirt is worth. And the uncomfortable truth is that none of these brands are making fraudulent products. The shirts exist, they function as garments.
Some of them look reasonably good for a while, but every one of them operates on the same underlying logic. Charge for the brand, deliver the garment. The brand and the garment are not the same thing. You've been paying as though they are, so before we get to the 4 alternatives, let's talk about what a better shirt
actually is, because if you don't know what you're looking for, you'll keep buying the story instead of the fabric. When you pick up a shirt in a store, before you read the tag, run the fabric between your thumb and 2 fingers. A better shirt has weight and resistance. It doesn't collapse or flutter in your hand. It has presence. A cheap shirt at a premium price feels flat, thin, almost hollow. A shirt worth its price feels like there.
Is real material in the weave, because there is, now look at the collar laid flat on a table. A good collar has structural body, it holds its own shape, it doesn't go immediately flat and limp the moment, but you set it down. If a collar can't stand on its own before you put it on, it won't hold its shape. So
When you need it to matter, look at the buttons. Better buttons, pearl, horn, or dense Carozzo, they have a different weight and surface density than standard plastic. Press a thumbnail lightly into the edge of a cheap shirt button.
it marks, better buttons don't. Small detail, tells you everything. Look at the placket, the strip of fabric running down the front. Is it sitting flat and even, or does it bow slightly outward? Is the top stitching straight and consistent?
Are the buttonholes clean and tightly finished, or slightly frayed from a cutting process nobody checked? None of these are hidden. The shirt is telling you exactly what it is, in plain sight, before the logo says a single word. Now here are 4 brands that let the shirt answer first. Charles Tyrwhitt is a British shirt maker that most American men,
Either don't know or only know from their aggressive sale promotions. That obscurity is part of the opportunity. At full price, Tyrwhitt dress shirts run $50 to $90, but their frequent sale pricing, 3 shirts for around $100, makes them one of the most rational purchases in office shirting at any price point.
Here's what you get at that price: fabric that runs meaningfully heavier than the department store competition. The collar options: cutaway, semi-spread, classic, button-down, built with real interlining that holds shape through regular machine washing, which is exactly the condition under which most cheap collars fail. The cuffs are clean and proportionally well calibrated. The sizing is consistent in a way that Tommy Hilfiger, Calvin Klein, and Express simply aren't. If you find your Tyrwhitt
Size once, it works across their catalog. The fit system, slim, extra slim, classic, relaxed, is genuinely cut differently, not just labeled differently on the same block. Put a Charles Tyrwhitt dress shirt next to a Tommy Hilfiger at double. The price, the fabric speaks before anything else does. One of them was built to be worn, the other was built
to be bought. Kamakura Shirts is a Japanese shirt maker with a single New York location and a reputation that travels quietly. Among men who think seriously about what they wear, their Oxford cloth button-down is, at under $100 in most contexts,
one of the best shirts you can own at any price. What makes Kamakura work is discipline. They make shirts. Not lifestyle, not a wardrobe universe, shirts. And that focus shows in every detail of the construction. The Oxford weave
is thick and deliberate. The collar roll, the natural downward fold of an OCBD collar toward the placket, is tuned correctly, which means it falls the way it should without collar stays, pins, or any intervention. It just rolls. Because the collar was cut and interfaced by someone who understood why that detail matters, the buttons are substantial.
The seams are finished. The shirt gets measurably better after 10 washes because the fabric softens and the collar relaxes into its permanent shape, the way a well-made thing settles into itself over time. If you've been buying Tommy Hilfiger or Polo for your weekend OCBD, try a Kamakura. The experience is materially different, not because it announces anything.
There is nothing visible on the shirt that declares its quality, but because someone built the shirt to be a shirt, it shows from the first time you pick it up. If casual shirting is where most of your shirt budget goes, Portuguese flannel is the most important brand most men in this audience haven't found yet. Based in Porto, Portugal, this brand makes mid-weight to heavy flannel shirts in a range of colors and patterns that look simple and deliver something,
Beyond what the images suggest, the fabric weight runs noticeably higher than the American flannel sold at mall brands and lifestyle retailers. You feel it immediately. The shirt has gravity. It drapes with intention. It doesn't flutter when you hold it up. It falls. The construction is clean and functional without being overworked. The buttons are good. The plackets sit flat.
The collars have enough structure for a casual context without being stiff or looking like they're trying too hard. But the real argument for Portuguese flannel is what happens to it over 2 and 3 years of regular use.
These shirts don't thin out and go boxy after a season. The fabric holds its weight, the color holds, the seams hold. A flannel shirt worn 30 times a season for 3 full seasons, bought at $90 to $120,
is an entirely different financial and practical conversation than a $60 mall flannel you're replacing every fall. If you've been buying casual shirts from Polo, J. Crew, or Gap, and feeling like they never quite hold up the way you expected, this is the exact reason. Weight matters in fabric, construction matters in casual wear just as much.
As in dress shirting, Portuguese flannel is one of the clearest demonstrations of what that means in your actual hands. Spire Mackay is a Canadian brand with virtually no advertising budget and no traditional retail footprint. That's by design. And it's directly relevant to what you get for the price when a brand doesn't maintain stores on major shopping streets.
It doesn't carry that overhead, and when a brand doesn't spend heavily on campaigns and celebrity partnerships, it doesn't build that cost into the price of the shirt. Spire and Mackay makes a different choice. Put more of the money into the product. A dress shirt from Spear and Mackay runs $50 to $80. But for that price, you get Italian fabric sourcing on many products, genuine collar construction with real interlining, clean seam work, and a fit system,
slim, contemporary, classic, that is calibrated differently in each cut rather than just labeled differently. There is no logo on the chest. No visible branding on the sleeve or the collar. The shirt is anonymous in a store. It makes no statement. It's about who made it or where you bought it. That anonymity is the point. Compare a Spire and Mackay dress shirt
directly to a Hugo Boss entry-line shirt. Pick them both up, similar price range, feel both collars, check both plackets. The difference in fabric weight and collar construction is not a matter of interpretation. One was built to be a shirt
that performs across 2 years of office rotation. The other was built to carry a name that performs in the room. Before you speak, both choices are available to you. Now you know what you're actually choosing between. Here is where everything lands.
The 6 brands we went through, Tommy Hilfiger, Calvin Klein, Banana Republic, Express, Ralph Lauren at the entry level, Hugo Boss at the entry level, are not selling you something dishonest in the narrow sense. The shirts are real. So they work as clothing. Some of them look good in the dressing room, in photographs, in the first season of wear.
But the economic logic behind all 6 is identical. You pay for the brand delivers a garment. The brand and the garment are priced as though they're the same thing. They aren't, and the difference between the price and the garment is funding advertising, retail real estate, licensing arrangements, celebrity associations, and the slow ambient accumulation of cultural weight.
That has nothing to do with the thread count or the way the collar rolls. None of that ends up, in the fabric. The 4 alternatives, Charles Tyrwhitt, Kamakura, Portuguese flannel, Spire and Mackay, make a different. Build a shirt that performs, price it honestly, trust that men who pay attention will eventually find it. That's a simpler pitch than 4 decades of billboards, but it's a better shirt. So the next time you're standing in front of a rack,
in a mall, in a department store, anywhere with bright lights and a recognizable name above the entrance, ask one question before you touch the hanger. Is the price in the shirt, or is it in the story? Being told about the shirt, feel the fabric, check the collar, look at the buttons, run a finger down the placket seam,
and see if it stays flat, look at the buttonholes, and check whether the thread is finished cleanly or cut loose. The shirt will answer before the tag does. If it can't give you a good answer on its own,
without the logo, without the store atmosphere, without the campaign running behind it, then what you're holding is a flag, an expensive flag. And flags, it turns out, are the most overpriced garment in men's clothing, you know what to look for now. Shop like it.